May the 5th PSA meeting to order. We do have a quorum. First thing on the agenda will be public address. If anybody would like to step forward and state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Homer. I live at 222 Price Street in Blacksburg and recently bought land on Echo Hills Road in the Eastmont area and have absolutely fallen in love with the Eastmont area. And I understand that the water and septic or sewer, whatever, what have you, is quite a bit different there than it is in the town where I am. We are talking to Fenton about getting a well. We are hearing that the water table has dropped significantly, and we may be looking at a 500-foot well. I'm very concerned about what is happening with our water. I'm concerned about, we've had 2 major floods in the last year. I'm just concerned about the quality of the water, whether it's wastewater, running water, public water or not. I really do appreciate the work that the Public Service Authority is doing to keep us safe. But at the same time, I think that overdevelopment has really done a lot of harm to our public health. And I don't know if we can talk about anything, but I'm here to state my opposition to the Fotheringay development. I think it's absolutely the wrong thing and will be a disaster. And I'm concerned about the harm that it's going to do to our groundwater and to our streams. Thank you.
Hello, Stephen White, 137 Watterson Circle, Shawsville. I am a consumer of both water and sewer. I don't consume the sewer, obviously, but also lifelong Elliston, Shawsville. And FOIA'd you guys for your permits and some of your usage for the PSA. Turns out you guys are permitted for $250,000 at the wastewater treatment plant in Elliston, and got the flow average for the month of March, and it averaged around 81,000 gallons a day. March wouldn't be a peak month for you guys, I assume that. So, I think that number's a little low. With the proposed development of 100 and I'm rounding up here, 185,000 gallons, that puts you guys 15,000 gallons over your permit. And again, that's just an average day. The Love's truck stop just came in, and I assume that number's gonna go up quite a bit in the summer. Just kind of concerned about what the capital plans are for the wastewater treatment plant. Where that money is gonna come from, where it's gonna go. As a consumer, do I pay for it twice, using the water and with my taxes for the county? And then timeline as well. I don't see a 5-year goal of upgrading that facility to be able to handle that capacity. So with a 5-year goal or 5 to 8 year goal for the development, there's some concern there, and would just like to be addressed today. That's it.
Would anybody else like to come forward?
Good evening. Hi, my name is Paige Williams. I live with Josh at 591 Allegheny Spring Road in Shawsville. I'm here tonight because I believe the Fotheringay development project poses a very real risk, not just to the character of our community, but to its safety. Specifically, I'd like to address the issues of flooding and infrastructure. Many of us who live near the property already deal with flooding during heavy rains. This isn't a hypothetical. It's already happening. Now imagine adding over 400 homes, hundreds of roofs, driveways, roads, and sidewalks. That's hundreds of acres that are used to absorbing water are now repelling it. Runoff does not disappear, it just redirects. And our creeks and our ditches and our backyards are not ready for this surge of development and its impact. Once that land is graded and compacted, then there's no going back. Flooding obviously is not our only concern. Our existing sewer and water systems are already strained. We've had conversations about water pressure, particularly at the schools. We have a concern of the impact of 409 homes on our community. We are not equipped to suddenly accommodate hundreds of new homes drawing from the existing infrastructure. We want to know who's footing the bill for these upgrades, what happens when septic fields fail or when water lines rupture. The developer gets to walk away, but we in the community, we are the ones left with the consequences. We've seen this in other counties and rural areas when they're turned into concrete corridors with an overwhelmed storm system and costly flooding damage that we, the taxpayers, are actually forced to clean up. We're asking for better capacity reports on the infrastructure and a long-term stormwater management plan. We believe that this is irresponsible and reckless if we don't do it. We ask that you don't push the development through without first addressing the real environmental and infrastructure risk, starting with flooding and the failing systems. And we've been here, this is like, my fourth time here? I'm not anti-growth, that's not it. But growth should be smart, it should be safe, and it really should be sustainable. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come forward?
Hello, my name is Julie Stump, and I live at 3720 Jacob Drive in Shawsville. And I just want to kind of reiterate what we've already heard tonight. With some of the concerns that I have, is the same as some of these other people. I'm concerned with, with the Fotheringay development. With the existing water issues, you tend to have a lot of flooding down in that area below the schools. And I do feel like that once you start developing that, there's going to be a whole lot more runoff coming through. And I also have concerns about the existing water and sewer lines. Will they be able to handle this large increase to the system? Like with the pressure, with the water pressure in the schools, I've had pressure at my house sometimes, issues. But I would just like to see before we consider bringing in, I'm also, I'm not completely anti-development. We'd like to see, some growth in our area, but I do think it needs to be done responsibly and not just like a whole mass in when we can't handle what we have now. To bring that much more in, I would just like to see the existing problems addressed and fixed before we consider, bringing in more that's just going to compound the problems that we already have. And I thank you all for everything you do for us in the county, and thank you for hearing me.
Would anyone else like to step forward?
Hi, I'm Sarah Bond, and I'm in District A. I personally don't know how anyone could ever say that there would not be anything important coming before the PSA board for the rest of the year. I also cannot imagine how anyone could ever say that there wouldn't be someone in our county who was well qualified and had personal experience being on the PSA board for 7 years, that they wouldn't be up to date on the business for the PSA board, and naturally could be appointed to this board. I also don't understand how anyone could believe that not appointing someone to District A for the PSA board would be a good idea. We have so many boards and commissions. Let's use the library board, for example. Every district does not have a library in it. And yet, the Board of Supervisors, of which all of you are, including myself, have intentionally appointed people to each board and commission to represent each district, if not multiple people from each district. And why would it be a good idea not to appoint someone to the PSA board to fill a spot that, again, someone who is a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from one of the top engineering schools, universities in the United States and the world, has a master's of business administration from the same school, worked as an engineer in industry for 15 years, worked as a business leader for 30 years. Why or how could anyone imagine that that type of person wouldn't be a good fit to sit on the PSA board at this time, especially when they have 7 years' experience of sitting on the PSA board? I'm not quite sure what's going on, but as a citizen of this county, I believe each and every one of you should support putting myself back in my seat on this board so that I can continue to represent my constituents, regardless of whether or not we have any PSA pipes, pumping stations in our district. Again, not everybody's got a library in their district, but the Board of Supervisors has always strived to fill every commission, every board, every committee preemptively. I ask you to reconsider what you've done since December. There is no reason why I shouldn't bring my experience, knowledge, and abilities back to the board, this board, to represent my constituents as well as the rest of the county. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to step forward? Seeing none, we'll close the public address. Moving on to the consent agenda for the minutes of February 13th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Madam Secretary, call roll, please.
Mr. Grasky,
Aye.
Ms. Demots,
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski,
Aye.
Ms. Biggs,
Aye.
Mr. King,
Aye.
Mr. Kitts,
Aye.
6 ayes.
Moving on to new business. Proposed 2026 wastewater budget.
Fiscal year '26 sewer budget, we've got an increase proposed from $10.55 per 1,000 gallons to $11.95 per 1,000 gallons. Reason for this Salary expense increased due to 3% raise, 2 additional employees, and off-cycle increases, reclassifications, promotions, earned license, etc. O&M expense increased due to an increase in wastewater treatment volume and increases in treatment rates. Expense also increased due to various cost increases above the base budget, insurance, repair and maintenance cost, uniforms, etc. Capital expense increased due to additional funds over the base budget for purchases of new vehicle. Keep on going. That's it for the sewer. You don't do want the water. Fiscal year '26 water rate increase going from $14.42 per 1,000 gallons. Proposed rate increase is $16.42 for an increase of $2 or 13.87%. This is due to salary expense, off-cycle increases, expense increase due to an increase in water purchase volume and increase in purchase rate. Purchase rate is increasing due to sourcing only from the New River Valley Regional Water Authority, which had a higher rate than what we used to pay Radford and what we used to pump ourselves out of the Reiner and Woodview wells. Expense also increased due to various cost increases above the budget, insurance, professional services, contracts, dues, repair maintenance, cost, etc. Debt service expense increased due to the addition of a new payment on top of existing debt service payment. That's all I have. That's it. That's water. That's all, that's what I got. That's my presentation. Amendment C is a presentation of water and sewer rate increase to the board and request to advertise said increase.
Is there any discussion?
I just have one question, Chuck.
Yes, sir.
On the wastewater budget, it showed that in '25, we had a $72,000 federal grant, and then in '26, we don't have it. That's a pretty big hit. Was that for a specific project, or was that a grant for something else?
Tell me where that is. Let me look.
It's on that, yeah, that first page
For water?
at the top.
I'm gonna get to it here in a second. I'm not aware of what that grant is for or what it was for. I don't have the answer for that right now. I can check and see what it was, but I don't have that with me.
Okay.
I don't think there's any grants on the sewer side that I know of this year, for this year.
RCO federal grants.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, but I'll find out.
Mary, you got any question? Anybody?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. So, I'm just looking at the wastewater one right now, just as an example. So our sewer metered sales, which I assume is kind of a consumption-based charge for our customers. So that's up about 20% this year, or it's budgeted to increase about 20%. I know we're proposing a 13% increase. So is the other 7% of that, is that anticipated increase in usage? And is that coming from new connections, or do we just think people are going to be using more water?
The majority of that's probably going to be new connections with the developments we have going on currently.
Okay, so projects under development that would increase
Yes.
usage.
Yes.
Okay. And then, again, still looking at the wastewater, just as an example. So Full-time salary and wages, I know you said we got the 3% raise and a couple of additional employees. And so what are the salaries for the 50,000 for 2 employees plus 3% for everybody just seems kind of low? Or were some of these
The salary, the two new salaries wouldn't be 50, it'd be more than, it would be 60, about 74,000 for two positions.
okay, because I'm just saying, just,
I think there might be some turnover in other positions that generated some salary savings. So some people who retired might have
out.
gotten hired
Okay,
in at lower rates.
okay, I was just trying to make the math work in my head. And so same for like hospital medical plans, that's just the increased cost of medical coverage for those two.
And it's
New
based on
employees.
what people actually select. So if they selected a higher level plan, then the cost would have
Costs
increased. Yeah.
increase. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Is there any more questions? We need a motion to advertise rates.
Okay, I'll make a motion to advertise those rates.
Second.
Is there any more discussion? Madam Secretary, call roll, please.
Mr. Grasky,
Aye.
Ms. Demots,
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski,
Aye.
Ms. Biggs,
Aye.
Mr. Kitts,
Aye.
Mr. King,
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you.
Now moving on to D, the development.
So, as y'all know, the development's asking for 409 units to be developed at Eastmont. We've had them take a look, we've had our engineering firm take a look at some of the infrastructure down there, and one thing that they did mention that would need to be done would be the work to the Eastmont pump station currently would not handle that kind of development. Their report said that the Eastmont Elementary Pump Station could handle an additional 160 units, and anything above that would require an upgrade at minimum of the pump station itself. Additionally, a full evaluation of the force mains and gravity lines will be required to determine the adequacy of the piping network prior to accepting flows from more than the before-mentioned 160 units. I have a proposal here in front of me from Hurt and Profit to do that work, which would be create and analyze sewer model for the gravity system, create and analyze model of existing force main, recommend improvements needed to accommodate the 409 unit development, provide a cost estimates for the recommended improvements, and prepare a letter report documenting results of the work. The fee for this work, Hurt and Profit, would be at a cost of $17,000. Force main that they're talking about looking at is approximately 6,800 feet. Our plans indicate that it's all 4-inch. My opinion, 4-inch is not big enough to handle that kind of sewer flow. So it would require an update or an upgrade just to handle the 409 units that they're proposing to build. If the full build-out is allowed, it would put the capacity at 218,000 gallons per day. Plant expansion would be required at 237,500 gallons per day. leaving approximately 19,500 gallons per day in the plant for any future development. And again, that's pushing it right to the envelope. I mean, there's no room left for, if flooding or anything like that's not gonna, we would exceed our daily limit. So, my question to you is, do you want me to proceed with this, to have them evaluate this?
Well, my question would be, is it a waste of time to do it if it puts the sewage treatment plant at the edge of being overtaken, and the fact that it's 4-inch line for the whole 6,800 feet?
That would have to be upgraded, yes, sir.
So that would have to be changed.
Yes.
What would be the likelihood of the developer wanting to pay for all that?
I don't know, without having a cost estimate, I wouldn't know what the answer to that is. I mean, I can only imagine it's gonna be quite expensive. So, I'm not sure if they'd wanna pay for that, but
I'm not sure that we would want to pay for a study that's going to be going in the direction that we think we already know it's going to go. I think that would be throwing money away, but, so I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Yeah, I have similar sentiments that, us footing the bill for a study that is for the a third party to develop in that area should not be incumbent upon us.
I agree. I think that would be a cost of development and not a cost to the PSA.
I agree.
I think it's going to have to be, they're going to have to do a robust study because it's not fair to the county or the people that are there in order to front a bill to run new pipes, new systems, and new everything. I mean, we were talking about having a study to cover expansion anyway, but this is even above and beyond that. And I think it falls on that, especially with the runoff portion. I think it's a legitimate concern. I think that needs to be all kind of grouped into one. I think it needs to fall on them, not us.
Well, the 4-inch pipers now, we have been talking, it would have to at least go to 6. It would have to at least go to 6. But some of us would like to see 8. And you're talking about 6,800 foot. And that's not even adding to the pump station itself.
no.
And if this goes forward with the way it sets at 160 homes, then if somebody wants to bring in a family member, wants to move in next to them, we're at capacity. I just don't think that'd be fair to the people that lives there now. That's just my opinion.
So we'll be at capacity even at 160.
Well, we would have 19,000 left.
Okay.
But if it storms, floods, whatever, then as Chuck said, we'd be over our limit.
Right.
Are there other, I know that there's been talk about different arrangements that could be made. This board, the PSA board, and the Board of Supervisors has not yet seen any type of development proposal. It hasn't come to us yet. And so besides what has been shared with the Planning Commission and what's available publicly, we don't have any additional information beyond that. I know that there's been mention of other arrangements that could be made to serve the property. What is your take on that?
I've heard some talk that, could there be septic fields put in? Currently, right now, Elliston is, the way that's set up, every connection in Elliston has a septic tank. And PSA maintains those septic tanks. And it's been asked, could they do something similar to that up there? Again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how it gets to the plant. It's still going to affect the capacity of the plant, in my opinion. So, I don't know. Only thing that if you put drain fields in, I can't speak for what would have to be done. I'm pretty certain that the lot sizes would have to be increased to accommodate that. If a private drain field was put in, so you would lose the amount of houses that you're potentially wanting to build. But as far as the septic tanks go, that, like the rest of Elliston is, it's still going to affect the plant no matter what. No, at 160, what their first study come back at 160, I think they could handle up to 160, and that would put, that would leave the pump station and the, sewer plant in good shape. But anything beyond that would not.
That would still be at 19, right?
No, the 19 comes in at 19,500 left in place would be a full build out of 409.
So
Have
if
we-
they built to 160, they would be nowhere near the capacity of the wastewater treatment plant.
Did they look at the water side?
The water is fine, yeah, I've talked to both the water authority and to Christiansburg where the water, comes through the town, and both of them have said the water capacity's fine.
Okay.
Yep, it's just sewer.
What are the next steps for the PSA I know we've got an application on hold. What are the next steps after this meeting tonight for the PSA as it relates to this specific development? And I guess, is there more that the PSA needs to do related to the system, but not the development? Is there anything that we need to be looking at or doing in the system?
We're doing some study work now in other parts of our system. We have not said we were going to Elliston at this point. If we wanted for them to move down there, we could have them do that. If not, then the only option left here that I see is if they want to do the study, if they want their engineering firm to do the study and pay for
Well,
it.
I asked the second part of that question because we heard from citizens tonight that there are water pressure issues. So I didn't know if there was more that we needed to be doing to address the water pressure issues.
That other tank's in, right?
Not yet, but it's coming.
We're putting in that other storage tank at Camp Christie.
So
That'll help with the water pressure issues.
it'll help with the water.
If somebody has water pressure from the PSA, if they would contact PSA, we'll send somebody down there to check their pressure on their meters.
Okay.
Chuck, if I could just mention, if anyone's doing a study, it needs to be our engineers. I mean, the developer can cover the cost, but we don't want their engineers doing it. We want our engineers doing it, right? Then there's no conflict.
So it's my understanding that they can do 150, 160 homes, but not 400 without doing an upgrade.
Right.
And I see a consensus that if the developer wants to do the study, they are to pay for it. Is that correct?
And it's sort of hard to know what's going on because we don't know what's going on.
Nope.
So we're talking about something that we don't know what's going on.
Right.
So I think the developer's waiting to see what the PSA said about the system down there. So I guess we can inform them that for the 409 houses, we don't have the capacity for it. The system won't hold it. Pipes is too small. And if they want to move forward with something lower, then they'd have to go to the planning commission or the board of supervisors. And at least get us some kind of plan of what they're going to do down there. Because it's hard for us to vote on something when we don't know what we're voting on.
Because 160 puts us right at it anyway, and that's what they're, you talk about. So, yeah, until there's some clarity on this, it's kind of a moot point.
Yeah.
How at some point, did they believe that there was more capacity, or like, how did it get to this point without there being enough capacity?
Every report, everything that I've seen on when the, and again, just what I've read, when the county purchased the property to build the school, the pump station was big enough then to support the 160 houses built next to it. There's nothing in any of those things that I read that said anything about 409 houses. It's always been, the number's always been 160. I don't know why they came back and said 409. I don't know where they got that number from, as if it's just, this is how much property they're buying, this is how many houses they think they can get on it, and sent that request in to see if 409 houses would work. But it's not going to work.
Yeah, I asked that because I know when we've gone through this on the Board of Supervisors side with the Fotheringay, the comprehensive plan amendment, and they've told us they've been working on this for years, a couple of years. And so it seems odd that they've worked on it for a few years without knowing that they had capacity. And now we're at this point where they're finding out they didn't have capacity.
Yes.
I agree with that. I wondered the same exact thing. Because when you're doing a plan, you got to think about your water and sewer, right? So then you'd be talking to people that would know about the water and sewer, right? So I'm not sure what happened either. That's why I say we're talking about something we don't know what we're doing, what we're talking about. Because we don't know what they're going to come back with, or if they're going to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess we could have Chuck contact I guess Steve Simone or one of them, and tell him our decision for tonight. Marty, should we vote on that or just consensus?
I think consensus is fine, yeah.
Is there a consensus to ask the developer if it's going to be studied, they pay for it? All right. Any more discussion?
Well, I think they also need to be told of what they're dealing with, this 6,800 feet of 4-inch pipe, and the fact that the plant, the sewage treatment plant itself, would be on the edge. They need to know that because maybe they don't want to spend the $1,700 to look any further. So they need to know those facts.
17,000.
17,000, sorry.
All right. Any more discussion on that? Thank you. Chuck, you got anything else on that?
No, sir, I don't.
All right, moving on to the financial report.
Hold on a second, let me get pulled up here. Okay, so financial report for April 30th, 2025. Operating cash, $3,699,563. Capital improvements, $714,078. Customer deposits, $105,590 for a total of $4,519,231.
Does anyone have any questions?
It looks like we're well ahead in water and sewer connections. Is that related to development out at Price's Fork?
Yes, ma'am. And we've had a few other customers that we've added in the Reiner and Mud Pike area where the new water line went through. We've had a few out there as well.
Any more questions? Thank you. Now we'll move on to the.
Sorry,
director.
I do have, I'm sorry. With the oil well road project going on, will that add any connections, or is that just replacement of existing infrastructure?
That won't add any new connections. That was just replacement of a section of pipe that was in need of replacement.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the director's report.
I don't have anything tonight.
All right. Moving on to the members' report. Member Steve.
No report.
Member Motts.
No report.
Member Grasky.
Not a report, but just a general question. So, as I understand it, the easement was obtained by Mr. Price out there on Merrimack. And so will he have to bring a formal proposal to us in terms of, anything that he proposes building out and tying into the PSA and all that stuff?
Yeah,
He would have to get his engineer to drop plans and then submit them to be approved.
Okay, so that they could tie in to our system. Okay, great. Thank you.
Vice Chair Kitts.
No report.
Secretary Murray.
No report, but my usual question, any update on Brush Mountain or any kind of grants or anything like that?
I don't have anything update for that.
Okay.
And I have no report. But I do appreciate everybody coming out. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.